Hey bhave matta prabhu rahe ratri dine radhikara bhavayaiche uddhava darshane Se bhave matta prabhu rahe ratri dine. Please chant. Vaishnavis. Kana Gopal Kabru, can you even bring me one of those mats? The thin ones, not the big asana. No, just one of the regular thin ones. Yes, perfect. Thank you. I have to sit with crossed ankles, so I need to put a mat under there. Okay, synonyms. Radhikara of Srimati Radharani. Bhava, emotion. Yaiche, just as Uddhava Darshane, in seeing Sri Uddhava, say that Bhave, in the state, Matta, maddened, Prabhu, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Rahe, remains, Ratri Dine, day and night. So, Srila Prabhupada's translation for this verse. Just as Radhika went mad at the sight of Uddhava, so Lord Chaitanya was obsessed day and night with the madness of separation. Please repeat. Just as Radhika went mad at the sight of Uddhava, so Lord Chaitanya was obsessed day and night with the madness of separation. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Those under the shelter of the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu can understand that his mode of worship of the Supreme Lord Krishna in separation is the real worship of the Lord. When the feelings of separation become very intense, one attains the stage of meeting Sri Krishna. So-called devotees like the Sahajiyas cheaply imagine they are meeting Krishna in Vrindavan. Such thinking may be useful, but actually meeting Krishna is possible through the attitude of separation taught by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So there are two other verses I was asked to read. They don't have purport, so I'll just read the Bengali and translation. So 109. Ratre palapa kare swarupera kantadhari aveshe apana bhava kahe ughadi. Srila Prabhupada's translation. At night he talked incoherently in grief with his arms around Sarup Damodar's neck. He spoke out his heart in ecstatic inspiration. And then 110. Yabeye bhava utte prabhu antar se giti shloke shukka dena damodar. Translation. Whenever a particular sentiment arose in his heart, Sarup Damodar satisfied him by singing songs or reciting verses of the same nature. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini Tinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashtachare Sharine Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmulitam Jaina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishang Shapitang Jaina Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeyaham Shri Guru Shri Yatapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagadatam Sahagana Raganatam Vatam Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Purjana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanda Tangsha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosate Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhya Shah Kripa Sindhubi Evacha Patitanang Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaurabhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, dear devotees, through some or other, we are so fortunate that we've come in contact with this esoteric knowledge that you will not find in any other, at least I have not, and I have done quite a bit of research into other religious, spiritual traditions. You will not find this kind of esoteric knowledge about the Supreme Personality of God and Lord Krishna, His expansions, the mood of those expansions. This particular expansion, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who only comes, as Krishna does, once in a day of Brahma. When Krishna comes once in a day of Brahma, then when he leaves, the Kali Yuga begins. And in that Kali Yuga, this particular special form of the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appears. So to be present on this planet in that same Yuga where Lord Chaitanya appeared is extremely, extremely fortunate, because we're getting not only oral history of Lord Chaitanya's appearance, but we can go and see the actual places. How many of you have been to Mayapur? And how many of you that have gone to Mayapur have been to the Yoga Pit? So all his pastime places are still there. Or at least a lot of them that our acharyas have passed down in our line. Prior to Bhaktivinoda Thakur certifying the Yogpit, the other people were claiming that it was on the other bank of the Ganges, it was here, it was there. Why? Money, money, money. If you can say this is a holy place, then people will come and they will give Lakshmi. So people were competing. No, this is where Lord Chaitanya appeared. No, this is where Lord Chaitanya appeared. And how did Bhaktivinoda Thakur finally certify? By bringing Jagannath Das Babaji, who was at the time around 127 years old. It's not that long ago. We're in the 2025, so in the previous century, Srila Prabhupada left. And then in the previous century, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was there with Jagannath Das Babaji, 1800s, 1890 something. Prabhupada appeared in 1896, and 1896 was when Bhaktivinoda Thakur sent his Lord Chaitanya's life and precepts to different libraries around the world. So we're not talking that long ago. For us, because we only live 100 years max in Kali Yuga, something 100, 200 years ago seems, oh, it's such ancient history. But even in the history of this planet, which is not so long, it's not so long ago. A couple of hundred years is like I know, I'm 73, so 100 is not that far away. It may be attainable. And 73 doesn't seem that long. So if I make it to 100, I'm sure, Amala Bhakta Maharaj, I've said many times, he's the eldest living Prabhupada disciple, not by initiation, because by the time he got it, I think he got his first initiation in 75 or 76. So obviously so many Prabhupada disciples, myself included, had already been initiated by Prabhupada. But by age, he's the eldest. He's exactly 20 years older than me, so he just turned in October 93 years old. Amala Bhakta Swami. So he's older even than the original devotees, like Mukunda Maharaj. He's about, I think, 86 or something like that. Satsuru Maharaj, about the same age. So by age, Amala Bhakta Maharaj is the eldest. But if you talk to him, 93 is not that much. Again, from our viewpoint in this yuga, seems like a lot. Anyway, we're very, very fortunate to hear all of this esoteric information from a bona fide source. Not some Sahaja, like Prabhupada mentioned that word, Sahaja, because Sahaja means somebody who takes things cheaply. They hear from the Shastra that devotees go in front of the Lord, pure devotees, and they faint, so they go in front of the Lord and they faint. So Prabhupada used to say, these fakers, you take a shoe and beat them on their face and see how they react. If they've actually fainted in ecstasy, they won't respond. So we're very fortunate. We're not captivated by such fake devotees. We are hearing from a real devotee. Prabhupada never referred to his paintings, the paintings that he directly supervised. He told the artists, because they would regularly come to Prabhupada. I know on Henry Street, where I joined in '73, still they were having conferences. Like, I know Pushkar, Jadharani, they would come to Prabhupada and give some idea. Or if he wasn't there, they would write to him and say, like this. I mean, one famous exchange was when they were painting the Battle of Kurukshetra. They wrote, well, Prabhupada, what kind of shoes does Krishna? And Prabhupada, no, why should Krishna wear shoes? Doesn't Krishna go barefoot? And Prabhupada said, no, that's Vrindavan. In the forest of Vrindavan, he's going barefoot. But this is a battlefield. He has to wear shoes. So they were confused about many things. So Prabhupada referred to these paintings not as paintings, he called them pictures. So this is a picture of what was described in that first verse 108. That when Uddhava came to Vrindavan, you see he's conversing with the gopis, giving them news of Krishna, and Radharani went mad. For several reasons, because one, she was hearing about Krishna, and two, Uddhava kind of looked like Krishna. So in her ecstasy, we know she chastised the bumblebee, called him an unreliable servant of an unreliable master, etc. So these are factual histories. There's not just somebody supposedly goes into trance and tells you something or some dream that they had. No, these are actual histories. Krishna was on this planet a little more than 5,000 years ago. He engaged in all these pastimes. Why? Just to give us food for thought. He has come, paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha duskritam. So which camp do we want to be in? The sadhu camp or the duskriti camp? Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha duskritam. If one insists on being a duskriti, kriti means meritorious, something good. Duskriti means just the opposite. You're doing something that's bad. So if you insist on doing bad things, yes, you can see Krishna, but not in a form that you're going to appreciate. Krishna says, Mrityu savharashaham. For those who don't want to surrender to me, engage in loving pastimes with me, then Mrityu sarvaharashaham. I appear before them as death. So we want to be in the paritranaya sadhunam. So when we take to this path of Krishna consciousness, it means we're being trained how to be sadhus, sadhvis, female form, sadhvi. We're being trained how to be proper devotees of the Lord. And we need training. It's not that you just hear Hare Krishna once. Yes, it's stated that if you once chant Hare Krishna, then you're burning up more sinful reactions than sins you can commit. But still, if you have not allowed your mentality to be changed, you're going to go on doing bad things and accumulating more sinful reactions. So one has to be trained. Yeah. Apanak sanskritim gorang yan nama vivashokana. Tata sadya pamuchitya yadbibeti swayam bhayam. Living beings who are entangled in the complicated meshes of birth and death can be freed at once by chanting the holy names of Krishna, which are fear personified. So if we are serious and we chant seriously, then yes, we're free. But unfortunately, when we're in the beginning stages, as the English phrase goes, you take one step forward and two steps backward. So if we keep doing that, then we're just prolonging the experience of miseries in this material world. So we should get to the point where we intelligently decide, no, I don't want any more misery. One of those miseries is madness. There are 6 main enemies of the living entity in conditioned life: lust, anger, greed, envy, illusion, and madness. Now, the madness that Radharani is experiencing is not like that. This is the madness of separation from Krishna. Externally, it looks the same. You're talking to yourself, you're accusing other people of things that, like that. Externally, when a devotee goes into this mad state, as it's also mentioned about Lord Chaitanya, day and night, Ratri Dine, he was in the state of madness of separation from Krishna. So externally to foolish people, it looked like a mad person. But the devotees knew, so they were always anxious for his safety. Because sometimes he would disappear, that famous pastime where he disappeared at night, they couldn't find him and they were searching up and down. And finally they saw one fisherman who was acting weird. They asked him, did something happen? He said, he could barely speak. He said, yeah, I was fishing and I caught this. I thought it was a big fish, but it was a ghost or something. I touched him and I became mad. And they said, Lord Chaitanya. So externally, the madness of the devotees seem like the madness of ordinary people. But it's far different. Actually, sometimes the mad people think that devotees are mad. And in the early days, some devotees got, like Kirtananda Swami, he was, on the urging of his parents, he was put into an asylum, mental hospital. But when they examined him, they realized he's probably the most normal person I've met. So like that, externally some people think because we're chanting and dancing, jumping up and down, that we're crazy. But everybody should be so crazy. This world would be a much better place if everybody would become Hare Krishna crazy. So Radharani is mentioned here. And we know that Lord Chaitanya is Lord Krishna in the mood of Srimati Radharani. So combination. But Krishna, in his original position, he's Swayam Bhagavan. He's the Supreme Lord. So his business as Supreme Lord is to give orders. So when he comes to this material world in that mood of this Supreme Lord, he orders, Sarvadharma Parityajya, Mamekam Sharanam. Give up everything, all variety of so-called religion, just surrender unto me. But Prabhupada said several times that we're so foolish and unfortunate as conditioned soul. We're thinking, who are you to order me? When we're in conditioned life, we want to give orders. We don't want to be ordered. So Krishna, understanding that, comes back, as we said in the Kali Yuga, just after his departure, as Lord Chaitanya. Not to order us to surrender to Krishna, but to teach us how to surrender to Krishna, to teach us how to become pure devotees of the Lord. And if we follow that path strictly, then the day will come when we experience, not by force like the Sahajas do, but just naturally, when you surrender to Krishna, engage in devotional service, not only to Krishna, but to Krishna's devotees, we surrender to that mood of being a servant. Britasya Britta Paricharika Britta Britta. Servant of the servant of the servant of the servant. That is the mood of devotees. When we actually capture that mood, then we gradually start to experience real ecstasy. Ecstasy of devotion, the emotion of devotion. Bhakti Rasa Amrita Sindhu. Rasa Amrita, the nectar of devotion, is like an ocean. Rupa Goswami has informed us. Prabhupada translated that as the nectar of devotion. So if we read that nectar of devotion, we see, or we hear about the ecstasies, somebody's at the door, the ecstasies of devotees who are in this mood of separation from the Lord. Vipalamba Seva. There's meeting and there's separation. Both have to be there. If you never meet the Lord, then how you can experience separation. So the pure devotees, they are meeting the Lord, and then when they are separated from the Lord, they feel the higher ecstasy. They experience this ecstasy of separation from the Lord. So Prabhupada mentioned in his purport that if we take shelter of Lord Chaitanya, which means taking shelter of this process given by Lord Chaitanya, what is that process? Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga. Shiksharsam Ekam. Purushak Purana. That Lord Chaitanya has come to give us two things. Vairagya, renunciation, and Vidya, knowledge. Now, one who's actually in knowledge understands that you can't really renounce anything. Nothing belongs to you. Sometimes when people take to the yogic path, they become very proud of being renounced. So much so, they don't even accept money. You try to give them money. Prabhupada would make fun of them. You try to give them money, and they say, no, I don't touch money. Prabhupada said, we're not so foolish. Gimme, gimme, gimme. Because the devotees know what to do with money. They can engage all the Lakshmi, all the money in the world in Krishna service. Building temples, distributing prasadam, distributing books of knowledge like that. Devotees know what to do with money. Whereas some foolish sadhus, they get cheap followers by, no, I'm so advanced, I don't touch money. So we're not so foolish. He also not made fun of, but pointed out the mistakes of the Mauna Vratis, those who take vows of silence. They don't ever speak, but they want something, they write it on a piece of paper. So what's the use? You're still communicating. I won't say, please get me a chapati. I'll write it on a piece of paper and get me a chapati. So you're still communicating. What's the difference? So devotees are not so foolish. They're not falsely proud of being silent. Prabhupada said, why should we be silent? We have so much to say. We could go on talking 24/7, 365. That's real devotee. So saturated with knowledge of Krishna. So Vairagya and Vidya. Vidya means knowledge, but real knowledge, not speculative knowledge, not knowledge just about myself. If you notice, a lot of these so-called yogis, they only speak about themselves. I did this, and I did this, and I want to go, and I want to, I. But the real devotees, they speak of Krishna. They speak of Radharani. They speak of Lord Chaitanya. Prabhupada only once in a while will say something about his life. His grihastha life or his childhood like that. Listen to all his lectures. No I. Only Krishna, 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 Krishna. So this is real devotee. So here Kaviraj Maharaj is giving us insight into Lord Chaitanya's mentality of separation from Krishna, that it is in this mood of Srimati Radharani, just as Radharani went mad when Uddhava came to Vrindavan to give news of Krishna. Not only to give news of Krishna, but Krishna wanted him to go there so he could experience the mood of the gopis. Because we know the method of worship of the gopis is the highest. And how do we know when we are approaching this level of good fortune? That is stated by Prabodhananda Saraswati. Kaivalyam narakayate chidashapur akasha pushpayate. Durnang tendriya kala sarpapatalay prodkata dangsayate. Vishvam purna sukayate vidimahendradish sakitayate. No yakkaruna katacha vaivavavatam tam gora stuman. So that last line says, yakkaruna kataksha. Kataksha, sidelong glance. When we've gotten this merciful sidelong glance of Lord Chaitanya, these are the symptoms that indicate that we're on our way. First one, kaivalyam narakayate. This impersonal liberation, merging into the existence of the Absolute. We would rather go to hell. Kaivalyam narakayate. Is that a fact? Would you rather go to hell than to merge into Krishna's existence? Think about it carefully, don't lie. Because it's not that the Kaivalyavadis, it's not that they don't experience some ecstasy. They get some. It's stated that if you take all of the so-called ecstasy, happiness of sense gratification, it doesn't amount to one drop of what the Kaival devotees are tasting. So they're experiencing something, relief from material existence. They're not feeling any pangs of misery of material existence. So that's very high. Most people would think, wow, that's great. But for a devotee, they would rather go to hell and serve Krishna, just like Prabhupada did. Prabhupada was sitting down in Vrindavan, Radha Damodar. He was engaging in devotional activities 24/7, all day long. Everything he did was devotional and engaging with other sadhus. But he gave that up to come to New York and then later on London and other hellish cities in the world. Once Prabhupada was in London and this discussion was about hell. So one female disciple asked something about hell and Prabhupada said, London is not hell? She didn't get it. So Prabhupada repeated, London is not hell? We're thinking New York is a great city, London is so nice, or whichever city you like best, Sydney maybe. But it's all hell for a devotee. Why? Because there's very little, practically no Christian, especially when Prabhupada came, there was no Christian consciousness here. Not another devotee he could engage with. And even those from India who knew a little something, like this Dr. Mishra, we're hearing in the morning from Prabhupada Lilamrita, it was just like being in hell because he was a Mayavadi. He wouldn't allow Prabhupada to speak openly about Krishna consciousness. So for a devotee, anywhere that there's no Krishna consciousness is like hell. So what do devotees do when they go to hell? They make other devotees. And I always remind, because sometimes devotees become so advanced they don't want to associate with anybody, other devotees or anybody. They're so advanced they want to retire somewhere. No, that's not the mood of a real advanced devotee. A real advanced devotee wants to make other devotees. And they want to elevate those who are already on the path. They want to make devotees from scratch, like going out every day and chanting in the street, giving people invitations. That's making devotees. And then when they finally come to the temple, then we have our Tuesday night program to start to teach them how to chant, how to study Bhagavad Gita. This is all very, very pleasing to Lord Chaitanya. So Kaivalyam Narakayate, then Tridashapur Akashapushpa. Tridashapur means the abode of the demigods. Means highest form of material existence. We can't even imagine. We're thinking that if I drive a Mercedes and I live in a nice 3-bedroom house and with a little bit of property around it, there's nothing better. No, our existence here is so bad, especially in Kali Yuga. This earth planet, in previous yugas, the demigods used to come fairly regularly. We know when Krishna was here, Lord Brahma even came, the topmost demigod. He came to see Krishna and Dwarka. But in Kali Yuga, this entire earth planet has become a bad neighborhood. It's just like there's certain neighborhoods in New York here, you don't go. You just know, you hear the name and it's, no, I don't want to go anywhere near there. Bad neighborhood. So this entire earth planet in Kali Yuga is like a bad neighborhood. The demigods don't bother coming here anymore. Well, why would they? Who are they gonna talk to? Now, of course, when the devotees Prabhupada started up his International Society for Krishna Consciousness, he even mentioned after one kirtan, didn't you see? No, Prabhupada, see who? Didn't you see Narad Muni was here? Like that. So they will come at the invitation and chanting of devotees. But otherwise, they're not coming. Because just imagine, people are so fallen in Kali Yuga. If the example I like to use is Lord Shiva came riding down Skimmerhorn Street on Nandi, his bull. How do you think people would react? They would think it's something AI, or maybe they may even throw stuff at him. Foolish, they're so covered over in Kali Yuga. They wouldn't even recognize the demigods. They would think it was some advertising stunt or something. So the demigods don't bother coming. It's a bad neighborhood. So for the devotee who's gotten the merciful sidelong glance of Lord Chaitanya, who's beginning to appreciate this mood of separation, Tridashapur Akasha Pushpa. Akasha Pushpa means sky flowers. So phantasmagoria has really two meanings. Phantasmagoria means if I told you that I saw a whole bunch of roses in the sky, you would think this guy is drunk. Or if you take a handful of flowers and throw them up in the air. How long do they stay? Not very long. Gravity, they come down again. So going to the heavenly planets is like that. Yeah, for some time. In ordinary vision, it may seem a long time, tens of thousands of years, but Chinye Punya Marcha Loka Vishalam. After some time, you come back down to the middle planetary systems like Earth, where you can again try to make spiritual progress. So, Kaivalyam Narakaite, Chirashapur Akasha Pushpayate, Dordang Tendere Kala Sarpapate. The senses, our working senses, our knowledge acquiring senses, they're like snakes. We should always be vigilant. You should know that. As long as we have some tinge of material desire, at any moment, the eyes can drag us away, the ears can drag us away. Like Deva Amrita Maharaj, when I was in New Zealand with him not so long ago, he told that story at one of the Luff meetings, that he was in Thailand, and he went to one of the monasteries there, and he met the head monk. So they were having a dialogue, and the head monk asked him, how long does this material contamination last? And he gave his own example. He said he had been meditating and actually fasting on a fast. He was on a fast, he was meditating, externally seemed to be self-control. But then one lady went by and sang a song that he remembered from his youth. And he started to cry. So he's wondering, how is it that I seem to be so advanced in my process, in my practice, meditation, and this silly cinema song can make me cry? So the eyes, the ears, the nose, all of our senses at any moment can drag us away. So they're compared to like dangerous snakes. You don't play with venomous snakes. However, for a devotee who's gotten Lord Chaitanya's mercy, who's making progress on the path of spiritual life, real spiritual life, those senses become like snakes without fangs. If a cobra comes in here, the biggest of the cobras are the king cobras. They can grow to like 18 feet. And then when they raise up like this, because they can raise up like a third of their body off the ground, they can stare a 6-foot person in the eye. So they're very fearful. However, if you know for a fact that this king cobra doesn't have any fangs, then you're not afraid. You're not afraid. Or if that king cobra becomes a devotee, like in the case of when Narad Muni made a cobra into a devotee. So Narad Muni likes to travel around, and once in a while he comes to visit his disciples. So he visited this cobra, and he noticed he was all beat up and scratched. And so he asked him, what happened? He said, well, now that the villagers know that I'm a devotee and I won't bite, whenever they feel like it, they kick me, they beat me like that. So Narad Muni said, I told you not to bite, but I didn't tell you that you couldn't scare them. So then he started doing that out of self-defense. He wasn't going to bite, but just by raising up like that, they ran away. So, Tordang tendere kala sarpa patare, prodkata dangsarayate. The dangsar, the teeth, if you know they're gone, you're not afraid. Then the third line requires some explanation. Vishvam purna sukayate, vidi mahendradi sakitayate. That for the devotee, this material world, Vishva, purna sukayate, seems that it's full of happiness. What? You people are always telling about the threefold miseries, and we can experience, everybody experiences that taxation and crime and this and that. It's a bad place. How are you saying it's Vishvam Purna Sukhayate? It's full of sukh, it's full of happiness. How? Again, because they're not on the material platform, or the devotee's not on the material platform, so they're not experiencing the miseries that the non-devotees. So even for ourselves, I mean, I can't speak for all of you, some of you are probably already pure devotees, but even when we're not yet on the platform of pure devotion, already the miseries of material life have abated. We're not getting kicked like those that you see them. You look out the window during the japa period. Look out the window. You just see the faces of the people going to work or going to gym. They're all like, they look like they just, got beat up by somebody. That's because they are getting beat up. The material energy is constantly beating those who are in material consciousness. That's part of her service to Krishna, to beat. So one day you wake up and say, my God, if there is a God, please help me. How many devotees have done that? Come to Krishna consciousness. You ask them how they came, and they say, well, I was feeling such anxiety, and I just prayed, if there really is a God, please show me. And they ran into a devotee, and they got a book, and they became a devotee. Happens repeatedly, so many times. So that's Maya's job, to kick the conditioned soul so hard that just once, out of sincerity, they pray like that. Oh my God, if you're there, please help me. So once we take to the path of Krishna consciousness, the miseries of material life go down. The miseries caused by the body and mind, miseries caused by other living entities, miseries caused by the demigods in the form of, like now we're going into winter. I guarantee there's one day you're going to walk out the door and the hawk, as we call it, I grew up here in Brooklyn, so I know. We call it the hawk when the wind comes from the north. And it's blowing so strong and it's below freezing and you just feel like you're going to get swept away to Antarctica or something. So yeah, if you're in normal conditioned consciousness, it just blows your mind. But for a devotee, they go out into that same wind and they carry a book bag and they go somewhere. Devotees, not only in New York, they would go to colder places. I was fortunate and I got dragged into book productions. I never got sent to Minnesota in the wintertime. But devotees would go out in cold places in Minnesota, Canada, places where, your eyelids freeze together if you stay out too long. Why? Because they wanted to collect money for proper to send to India and build these India projects. So when you go to India, appreciate that Mayapur, Vrindavan, Juhu, they were built mostly by Lakshmi collected right here in the United States because, America was the first stop. The other places came gradually afterwards. So the majority of funds that went to build those projects in India came from devotees going out year-round, even in the coldest places. Like I said, I was fortunate I never got sent to Minnesota, but I did go out here in New York dressed as Santa Claus. Try to collect money for Prabhupada's projects. And people were so funny, especially children. They look at me and say, "You're not Santa Claus. Santa Claus is not black." So, Tridashapur, then Vishwam Purna Sakayate. Then the last part, this is sometimes difficult to understand. Vidi Mahendradish Sakitayate. Who is Vidi? Brahma, Mahendra, Lord Shiva. So Vidi Mahendradish Sakitayate. It states literally that for the devotee who has gotten Lord Chaitanya's mercy, Vidi, Lord Brahma, and Mahendra, Lord Shiva, are like insects. Is that what it's saying? Kita means insect. No, it's not saying that. It's saying that the devotees, because they're experiencing such ecstasy from their devotional activities, they don't even want to be Lord Brahma or Lord Shiva. For them, it'd rather be an insect in the house of a devotee than to have the position of, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings, than to have the position of Lord Brahma or Lord Shiva. So, we're very fortunate again, we've come into contact with this genuine knowledge, and if we take it to heart and put it to practice, then the day will come when we will automatically experience such ecstasy that not only these indications for Prabodhananda Saraswati, but we become Jivan Mukta, liberated even while in this material body. And we have so many examples of our acharyas. Externally, they seem to have material bodies, but internally, they were engaged in their Nitya Seva, serving Radharani, serving Krishna. So we can stop here. If there are any questions or comments. Yes, Krishna Kripa. Either somebody get the other wireless or I can repeat.
So, how do we experience feelings of separation unless we've met Krishna?
Krishna reveals himself. Krishna says, Mamai Bhangsha Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta. Sanatana, you're eternally my part and parcel. So the part was never not in contact with the whole. It's not possible. You're eternally part and parcel of Krishna. So the part not only has never been out of contact, but is always in contact. It's just that we're not conscious. We're not conscious of being in contact with Krishna. Now, by taking to the process of bhakti yoga and being trained how to worship the deities, we're beginning to again feel that connection. But the connection is always there. It's just like Prabhupada said, a son can never be disconnected from the father. You may disown your father, or the father may disown the son, but that connection is always there. It can never be broken. There's one person who's your father, and you're the son of that person. That connection can never be broken. Even if the son leaves and turns his back on the father, or if the father claims, you're no longer my son, you became a Hare Krishna, I don't want you, I'm going to take you out of the will. But the connection is always there. So similarly, the individual jiva is eternally connected to the Supreme Lord. He says that himself, and even when we are completely Krishna unconscious, that fact remains. So when we start to become conscious of Krishna again, that's when you can start to feel separation. When you're Krishna unconscious, you don't care. You're not feeling any. You don't feel any connection. Therefore, you don't feel any disconnection. But when you're advanced, start to advance, then you start to experience that. You may even start to see Krishna in dreams. You may see the I know I've seen the deities, not these deities. I've never seen Radha Govinda in dreams, but I spent more than 30 years on the West Coast. Most of them serving Rukmini Dwarkadish, and I used to do Mangal Arati 4 days a week, because they used to have 3-man Mangal Arati. So I used to do 4 days a week. I would do all 7 if they would allow, but you have to give others a chance. But when they switched over to only one person doing Mangal Arati, then I only had 2 days a week. So sometimes, you go out preaching late, or for whatever reason, I'm a lifelong insomniac. So sometimes you stay up too late, and you think you're going to get up, or you didn't set the alarm properly. Anyway, so one such morning, I was supposed to be on the altar, and for whatever reason, I wasn't getting up. And literally, the deities came in my dream, and get up! And I'm not the only one that happened to. Rukmini Dwarkadish are very merciful. There are other devotees on that blog that can tell you. You remember Balaram from Philippines? You remember him? He's passed away now. Big Balaram. You remember him because he used to come to New York. Anyway, he told me a similar story. He had to dress the deities one morning. No, he had to do the wake up, which means even earlier than Mangal Arati. And he was blissfully sleeping. And Rukmini Dwarkadish came and, get up. So yes, we start to feel separation when we start to become purified. Because the more we become purified, the more we start to feel the connection with Krishna, and then we can start to feel separation. Okay, Grantaraj Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Charge of this, I guess you need to